F1 has announced a multi-year extension with the Belgian Grand Prix to keep Spa-Francorchamps on the calendar 4 times in the next 6 years. Yes, you heard me right. That means that we'll see Formula One racing at Spa in 2026, 2027, 2029, and 2031. However, we won't see it in 2028 or 2030 as F1 begins to rotate some of the races based in Europe. The idea behind this move is to decrease the number of races in Europe and give F1 more opportunities to race in other countries around the world. CEO and president of F1, Stefano Domenicali, said that it was important to share the news of the race's continued presence on the calendar for the foreseeable future as the pinnacle of motorsport kicks off the 75th anniversary year, graphic courtesy of Formula One. I'll be attending the Autosport International this weekend where they have an F1 75 grid walk. So I encourage you to tune in to our grid network coverage as we'll be doing a grid walk looking back at some of the most classic cars in Formula One history and having some interviews with F1 personnel. You can catch that all here on the grid network. But Kobe's rejoined us now. We'll start with you. How do you feel about the Belgian Grand Prix going on a rotating schedule in a few years' time?
I'll be honest, Josh. I don't like it at all. And I think a lot of people feel the exact same way. We're talking about Spa-Francorchamps here, one of the premier tracks in Formula One, one of the classic tracks, that's been on the schedule ever since the very beginning of this world championship. And you're telling me that you're going to put this on a rotating schedule? I just don't understand this move at all. I feel like that this is one of the tracks, that should always be on the Formula One calendar, no matter what happens. Like, although the race is not really great at that track, Monaco Grand Prix, given this prestige and its history, should always be on the Formula One calendar. And I guess we could say this thing about the British Grand Prix being at Silverstone as well. Those classic tracks that we all know and love and truly appreciate. And I don't understand why they chose this track. Why couldn't they just choose like another racetrack, that doesn't have the same prestige in history? And then you choose this one. I just don't understand the decision making behind it. But they try to justify, be like, hey, we get to keep Spa on the calendar for many years. Just once the next few seasons pass by, we'll have it on the calendar every other year. And I feel like Spa is, that track that just needs to be on the calendar every season. But it seems like they're coming from the angle of if we go to Spa like once every 2 years, then when we go back to Spa again, you'll be really hungry to see the action, and the fans will, want to come out and buy tickets more than they would if it's on the calendar every other year. So I guess that's the perspective that they're coming from, and I do like the idea, of going to race in different places around the world. I just feel like they chose the wrong race here to switch on a rotating calendar, and it's going to be interesting to see what other Formula One races are going to fall victim of this rotating calendar, and which European rounds are going to, continue to stay, and which ones are just going to rotate. And I also saw some talk about our 3 Formula One races over here in the United States. And my personal opinion, I'd be fine dropping Miami or rotating that one. That's not really, one of my favorites. I'm cool with Coda, cool with Las Vegas, but Miami, if I had to take one away from us, that would be the one we can give it to somewhere else. But I don't see that happening anytime soon. How you feel about this, Matt?
Yeah, disappointing, isn't it? I mean, what was it 2005, 2006? It went away for 1 year and then came back. But otherwise, it's been on the calendar pretty much since they stopped going to Zolder in the 80s. You're right. The classic, and you mentioned Monaco, Silverstone, Suzuka, maybe Interlagos, Monza. It should not move. Those are, your keystone, core races of the championship. We shouldn't be messing around with them. I know there was talk about before Christmas about what Zandvoort was going to perhaps do, and maybe that will feed into this rotation. We talked through last year about this race in Madrid that is coming in however many years away that is, and that Barcelona's deal ends, and that's kind of all going to get played into this. Yeah, you're right though, Kobe. There's a few more European rounds that you would pick if you were going to rotate some out. Then you'd probably pick in front of Spa. Red Bull Ring springs instantly to mind, but money. So I guess we're going to have the same discussion that we've had in the last 10 years about there's too many races in Europe. I guess in another 10 years' time, we're going to have the same discussion of there's too many races in the Middle East because we're going to have 2 in Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Bahrain, Abu Dhabi. Oman will probably have a race. Kazakhstan will end up getting a race. It's all that's going to be the next hub of all these Formula One races going on within about 20-mile radius of each other. Unlike Europe, where it was Germany. We've still got 2 races in Italy, of course, with Monza and Imola. Although I think Imola's deal is up at the end of this year, I believe I read today. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with them. Maybe they can fall into this rotation thing as well, but that's all being led by Stefano Domenicali, as that is his hometown, the F1 Big Cheese. So interesting. Let's hope though that those 2 especially 2 things to hope for. One, we can't say tweeted, can we, because it wasn't on Twitter, but as I said on Blue Sky today, let's hope that the 24 hours of Spa gets its date back at the end of July, which Formula One nicked a couple of years ago, especially for the years that it's not on. And the 6 hours of the World Endurance Championship will be there. So if you want to go to Spa, there is absolutely 2 mega races that you can get to at Spa when the Formula One race, those 2 years that the Formula One race isn't there.
Absolutely. Now, I want to pick up on something because I've done a bit more research. As Ben says, we raced as one, but money. I want to pick up on something. Now, I have done a bit of research and nobody has said yes, nobody said no, but it has been brought up between journalists in a bit of a WhatsApp chat. And everyone's been going, And it was sort of rumoured out last year because we were talking about it, weren't we, when Zandvoort went off the calendar in 2026. Everybody said, why 2026? We thought it was going to go in rotation with the Belgian Grand Prix, one-on-one. And I put it in our chat earlier on, and I've messaged a few people, and they go, yeah, that seems to be what could happen, is that the years that have been left off are 2028 and 2030. Now, I'm going to bring this up to crucial. This is all completely, at the moment, hypothetical, but this is going off. A couple of people have been thinking the same thing as me. What if we are going to have a rotation with Zandvoort? Because 2028 is when Max Verstappen's contract ends with Red Bull, as we all know. And if he takes a 2-year extension deal, that then becomes 2030, which is what is the common deal. You sign on for another 2 years. So what if they've left off this 28 and 30 because Zandvoort could be having the big goodbye of Max Verstappen, his last home Grand Prix? Because we know that brings in the fans and it brings in the revenue for Formula One, arguably more than Spa does. So do you reckon we could be seeing sort of a Zandvoort just being very much kept in the wings before any other races jump in for a reserve date with them?
Seems the most likely, doesn't it? And you also feel like if we were going to Zandvoort without Max Verstappen on the grid, or another Dutchman, I don't know, trying to think of any coming through the junior categories that are you look at and go, yeah, they'll be in Formula One soon. Not only really Richard Vershaw, but I'm not sure if he's going to quite get there. It'll be a ghost town. It'll be an absolute ghost town if they go to Zandvoort and Max isn't on the grid. Much like the German Grand Prix was before Michael Schumacher was a thing in the 90s.
Nobody was there. Ghost town. And then Schumi won all the championships and they suddenly went, hang on a minute, we need a lot more seats. So they built the stadium circuit, which is great, but it ruined the racetrack. Ideally, what I'd like is a combination of the two where you get the stadium circuit, but you lose that parabolica swing in the middle because you can just go straight off at turn one, straight down the old circuit. And by the time you come back, you rejoin where that hairpin is anyway. And you get the Mercedes-Benz section, which provides all the overtaking. Yeah, so I just don't know why they never thought, let's just add it here instead of butchering the whole circuit. Adam says, Spa is legendary, exciting, incredible, and historic as well. My thoughts on nope, don't like it. Yeah, that's I can pretty much agree with Matthew Owens there. Bring back the German Grand Prix. I reckon we'll have a European Grand Prix or something like that where they'll fly in on a rotation. My thoughts on this is, but quickly, Matthew says, possibly a big year coming for the front row with Lane Riggs and Chandler Smith making a dynamic journey in the truck series. It's going to be good to watch the trucks this year, I can tell you, after a bit of up and down couple of past years. But my whole thoughts on this is, I like that we're going to regionalise the calendar. I like how they're doing it a bit more as in we go from one location and follow that around the globe. That's good. I like we're rotating races. but they're messing with the sort of the holy group of Grand Prix races, and that's not what needs to happen. Things like Austria, Emilia-Romagna, Azerbaijan, Singapore, we can rotate those races. We can rotate Miami, or just get rid of it. We've got I think Vegas and Kota, they're good, and I never thought I'd say that after we were going off Vegas so much in 2023. But I think there are small Abu Dhabi. Why do we need Abu Dhabi constantly? It had one good race, and everyone was raving about it. And that's not even 2021. The one good race they had was 2012, when all hell broke loose. So, in my opinion, they're doing the wrong calendar shuffling around, and I'll wait to see what's going on. But Stefano Domenicali is so far causing more trouble than Mohammed Ben Sulayem, who has kept quiet over the past couple of weeks.
There's a sentence you didn't think you'd hear out of this show.
No, he's kept quiet. And I look forward to testing. I can tell you that.